Hey y'all, wanted to give you some quick updates on our bill proposal that we're trying to get passed this year in California. The Small Farm Medicinal Cannabis Direct-to-Patient Shipping Act. So that's where small farmers, small licensed cannabis farmers will be able to ship their super high quality medicine directly to medical patients anywhere in California. And just wanted to let you know that we're still making progress and very excited. Next week we have an in-person meeting with a state senator, so we're going to actually be able to meet them in person, face to face, and discuss these concepts and propose this and see if we can get these concepts carried and introduced as legislation in California. We think it would just be all of a sudden an instant lifeline for small farmers who are just being decimated right now and going through an extinction event. But then even more importantly, it would prioritize medical patients within California to make sure no matter where you live in California, if you're in a county or city that bans cannabis right now, you'd still be able to have that high quality medicine from that craft cannabis farmer actually shipped directly to your house. And sounds simple, sounds easy, sounds common sense, makes sense, and it does. But right now, unfortunately, right now, nothing in the cannabis industry makes sense. But we're trying to make little improvements that will actually help and make the world a better place and spread the cannabis love. So, one really important concept to understand, though, is how the cannabis regulatory licensing system got set up. And it's important to know that it was modeled after the alcohol regulatory system. And in the alcohol regulatory system, they have what's called a three-tier system. And that means that you have your alcohol producers, so like your beer brewers, winemakers, and such. Then you have a third-party distribution entity, and then you have retail. So that's the traditional alcohol three-tiered system. So they're all separate steps, separate entities. So if you brew beer, you now are required to go through a third-party distributor who then takes that beer to the retailer. And traditionally, until recent changes have been made and tweaked the laws, traditionally that beer brewer could not sell directly to the retailer and could not sell, no way could they sell directly to the consumer, directly to a customer. So that's the same way that cannabis is set up right now, is that the farmers are now required to go through a third-party distributor, licensed entity, to then take that cannabis product directly to the retailer. So now the farmer has to go through this sort of artificial, unnecessary middleman just because of the way the regulatory system was set up. And it's totally inefficient. It actually sets up the opportunity for corporate consolidation, monopolies. It gives way too much power to the distributors and the retailers. And who suffers? Well, the small farmers definitely suffer. They're getting totally squeezed out because the distributors would rather work with big brands that they sort of do their corporate consolidation deals with. But then also the consumer suffers because what tends to happen is the quality of products goes down. Prices tend to not go down, actually go up. And then medical patients don't have access either, so or access to that quality medicine. Because right now, the retailers tend to not be very excited about selling wellness products. They're more interested in sort of the gas station grade gummies and vape pens and those type of products. That's what they think sells the best. So anyway, so that's how our current cannabis industry is set up. So again, the small farmers are not allowed to sell direct to a customer, and they can't even sell direct to a retailer. So the entire flow product flow or supply chain is all gummed up by this third-party distro. So, but here's the very, very, very good news to understand, is that in the alcohol industry, they also recognize that that problem would completely stifle small business, small producers, and would stifle innovation. So in the alcohol industry in California, here we're allowed to actually small wine producers, artisan wine producers, craft brewers, and craft distillers are allowed to actually sell direct to customers, and they're actually allowed to ship directly to customers' homes. So, so the small artisan wine industry has been shipping bottles of wine directly to customers' homes since 1985. Craft brewers have been able to ship beer directly to their customers for many years now, and during COVID, laws were introduced that also allow craft distillers, so we're talking hard alcohol, 80%, 80 proof alcohol is now allowed to get shipped directly to a customer's home within California. So what we're saying and making the point is that if we're modeling the cannabis industry after the alcohol industry, then the cannabis industry has a massively important segment of the California model that's been totally left out. So we don't have the small craft farmer direct to consumer or direct to retail option. And that is actually a massive, massive, massive stifling, anti-innovation, anti-quality, anti-affordable situation because, yeah, so now the distributors and retailers control everything, and the small craft farmers they don't have access. Even though customers and medical patients actually want that high-quality craft medicine that the craft farmers produce, but the retailers and distributors don't seem to have an interest in carrying that. So basically, that's, again, to sum it up, our argument that we're making, which totally makes sense, is if we're going to model the cannabis industry after the alcohol industry model, then we need to include the artisan wine, craft brewer, craft distiller, direct to consumer shipping portion. Then if we have that, all of a sudden we'll allow for innovation, allow for decentralization, allow for diversity and more consumer choice, and most importantly, convenient, safe, affordable medical patient access. So no matter where you live in California, you'll be able to have, if you're a medical patient, you can have your high quality craft farm medicine shipped to your house. Now, I want to read something from an article that I was just reading about. It's actually an essay just making a case for why the cannabis industry should not be modeled after the alcohol structure. And I'm just going to read right here. Conclusion. It says, based on the history and the development of the three-tier distribution system in the U.S. that regulates the alcohol industry, the cannabis industry would be well served by not following this model. If cannabis is best compared with craft beer, then a three-tier distribution system would devastate the industry, allowing power to consolidate into the hands of a few national product manufacturers with the help of corrupt distributors and wholesalers. Cannabis prices would likely increase, quality would likely suffer, and innovation would likely disappear. Ultimately, consumers would suffer while the dominant industry players prosper. As such, the emerging cannabis industry must make and take steps now to ensure that small local producers are protected at every stage of industry growth. Couldn't agree more. It's time. This is from a law professor, economist, person at a industry. I'll put a link at a college, but that's their conclusion in the case that they're making, and that's exactly what's happened. By not allowing the small craft farmers to have that direct to consumer or even direct to retailer access, it's just now cause an extinction event of our best, highest quality, most skilled farmers and legacy farmers who actually basically created this industry in the first place. And the customers and the medical patients are also suffering. So it's time to innovate, it's time to evolve, and we need to have, if we're going to model cannabis after the alcohol system, we need to copy every aspect of that and allow for small craft farmers to go direct to consumers, direct to retailers. Hope that makes sense. Anyway, and I hope state senators, lawmakers, and regulators will also see that comparison and make the right decision, start letting small farmers and customers and patients connect. So anyway, there you go.